First of all, Dinesh, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Dr. Saeel Momin. I'm the head of strategy and projects at Startup Nation. Uh, the call that we're having today is a conversation, and I'll tell you the reason. I'll give you a bit of a background towards what we are doing so that you will get a gist of why we are having a conversation today. Yeah? So, Startup Nation is a not for profit, community based organization that is organizing Startup Nation Olympiad, which is going to be the world's largest startup competition, focusing from ideation stage and early stage startups. These are mostly and coming from schools, universities, and colleges from Asia, Middle East, Africa, Australia, and parts of Europe. These are very early stage startups where the students have just have an idea at an ideation stage, or they've just created, let's say, a proof of concept. What we are doing is we are having conversations with established founders or people who have been in the ecosystem for about 2 to 3 years at least, where and have a bit of a idea about early pitfalls. The conversation is pretty much to give the students an insight into a founder mindset, right? So this entire conversation, we are only going to be focusing on three things. First is your journey as an individual. Where were you born? Which school did you go to? Which college did you go to or slash university you go to? And why choose to be an entrepreneur? Then we're going to talk about your projects. So the startup that you're working on, no projects that you've worked on in the past, how they failed, if any of them failed. And we're going to be focusing on failures mostly because we are strong believers that individuals need to try 100 things for one of them to work out. So students need to just realize that failure is part of the journey and not stress out so much about it. Right? So that's pretty much the bandwidth here. And the last thing we'll be focusing on is your challenges as an entrepreneur, as a startup founder that you had faced during your journey in your current project or the previous projects, and how you solved them, if any. If you are able to solve them, we'll talk about those also. Right? So that's pretty much it. It's a simple conversation. If you have any questions for me, feel free to ask.
So, firstly, thank you, Dr. Sail, for inviting. I mean, it's an important thing to tell these students like who are starting this. So this is something I'm quite happy about. Happy to do that. So about the three questions you put, right? So we'll start with the first one. So I belong to Haryana. So born and brought up over there, and my schooling also all happened in Haryana till 12th standard.
Which school was it?
It was Hindu school in Sonipat. So I studied in Jeend and Sonipat. So it's a government school. So I'm a product of government school through and through. From 12th standard in Hindu school, I went to FMC Pune. So then the journey took me to Pune, MBBS in Pune. After that, I joined army. 7 years in the army. Short service commission. That's why 7 years. I came out of army after 7 years completion of short service. I went to do my MBA from Indian School of Business. So it took me to Hyderabad. From 1 year in Hyderabad, there I went to London Business School on exchange from ISB. So couple of months, 3 months there in London on exchange. And then I came back, and since then I've been working in biotechnology from the beginning. So I started journey with company called Wokhar, to close to 2 years in that. 3 years in another biotechnology company called Intas, based in Ahmedabad. So 3 years in Ahmedabad. I came back to my hometown. So I'm based in Gurgaon now. So came back to my hometown in 2017, late 2017, and failed in two startups. Two are going on. So I very well understand the failures. So, but we have been focusing on tech-based startups in healthcare. Absolutely high-end tech-based startups, which include, so right now the startup which you see and which we are focusing 100% is cell and gene therapy. So we are one of the 5 to 10 startups in India who's focusing on cell and gene therapy. Before that, we started a biotech startup more focused on basically kind of trading or kind of consulting work did not work very well. Uh, uh, Obviously,
Mhm.
so you asked. No, you asked the question. I'll answer it more. Yeah.
So you said two failed startups and now you're working on the third one, right? Let's walk through those journey because that will help us understand what else, right? So what was the name of the first startup? What problem it was solving? What was the solution that you were offering? And why did it win?
So the first startup was called QBD Biosciences. We were working on biotechnology. We started with the idea that we will license biotechnology products, launch them in India, and also license them out to some other players and partners, which will sustain us. So, so we started with that. We had the assets in hand, but no buyers. So because as by asset means technology. So we had technology in hand, but no buyers because India is not a pair market for innovative technology for the technology. So we tried for a couple of years. That did not work. Main reason was that we did not clearly understand the market. So we thought that there will be buyers in India, and then kind of in a startup time is ticking, right? So and new first generation entrepreneurs, they make more mistakes than good things. So we were not not very different. Then we survived by doing consulting. So we literally survived by doing consulting, and then COVID came. So COVID was dampener for everyone, but our mistakes were more responsible than COVID actually. So this was the journey for the first startup. Sec- Second startup we started with my sister called Nuclear Med Systems. She's a nuclear medicine specialist. So our focus has been biotechnology. You would have heard about PET CT, gamma camera, the elder brother of CT, elder brother of MRI, right? So you can consider that the highest end diagnostic technology in healthcare. So we started our nuclear medicine center and our distribution company. So a mistake was we started in our hometown tier 3 city. Tier 3 city, we were driven more by emotions than by pure, business sense that we should have started in probably say Delhi or Gurgaon. It would have made more commercial sense. It's still working. I mean, sister is running it. But again, the scalability was a challenge because we again did not read the buyer behavior or the payer behavior very, very well. So that was the challenge faced in the second startup. So coming to the third startup, 3.5 years back in March 22 to be exact, we started the cell and gene therapy startup. A little wiser with all the failures, little wiser with all the experiences, and we started understanding what all challenges we faced and tried to put the learnings in this. So mistakes have been lesser than that. But this area again is extremely, extremely challenging. I mean, this is the most technically challenging area. So you can see a common thread over there, right? So biotechnology, nuclear medicine, cell and gene therapy. We normally pick challenges which are rated as not to be touched by 99.9% people. So we have been into little difficult areas. That's one fundamental reason. But our belief is the barrier to entry are very, very high in these areas. So if you are able to learn from the mistakes and make them work, I think this will become very sustainable, scalable organization, and where we are solving real time problems. So, what problem we are solving? We are developing cure for cancers and autoimmune diseases. So that's it's a 100% deep tech science R&D project based in Gurgaon. And we have a lab in Faridabad in Regional Center for Biotechnology, and we raised a small round. We put our money close to $1 million of our money and raised a small round of $4.2 million January this year, December last year. So that's where we are now. We are trying to scale it up.
Uh, that's quite a journey that you've spoken of. right? And I agree with you that biotech is a very difficult space, or any deep tech venture when you're out there. Uh, it is firstly capital intensive, so you have to put in a lot of money to, so the barrier of entry automatically is very high. Then you have to prove that the technology is actually working. That makes the barrier even higher. And then you have to be able to sell it at a price point where the customers will buy it or people will be interested. That is already the the third high barrier that you have to cross in every deep tech. And in especially the science and tech background, it is quite difficult because it takes years to develop a final product before you can even enter a market. So let's talk about sustaining the business, right? All the three businesses that you mentioned, apart from the first one. So let's start with the first one there. Technology business in India, bringing technologies to India, bringing patents, I assume, to India, and then licensing it to Indian companies. India was not the market for it. You learned in the hard way. How do you identify your market in this scenario?
That is idea still is pretty robust. See, if you have 10 products launched in the market, four products are not available, and we have the technology of those products, so a market gap is there. Need for those products is extremely high. I'll give you an example. If you remember COVID, so there was a product called tocilizumab, which was given to very ill patients, right? So it's a monoclonal antibody. So we had a technology of that, right? So huge gap in the market. But again, the technology don't come cheap, right? So if you like say you have to pay $1 million upfront or licensing, so in India, people say once it is launched, will pay. So that kind of risk averseness. That's why none of those technologies could be commercialized in India. And second one, big challenge which is common across any deep tech and specifically across biotech and deep tech is the regulatory hurdles. So regulatory hurdles and risk averseness. This is a deadly combination in India, which worked against us.
I get it. I get it. Let's talk a bit more about deep tech and survivability in deep tech, right? You and I both agree that it takes years to build something and then execute it, bring it to the market. And like you rightfully said, in India, the mindset is that I will put in the money once the product hits the market, but not when there is money that is to be made when developing the product, right? You first need to develop it. People don't bet on developing very scientifically inclined products because they're like, there are other alternatives of the avenues where we can make even better money. And that's a very downside of the Indian startup ecosystem to a certain extent that I feel. However, there is also methods which can be used to just survive this ecosystem. Obviously, there are early grants that are available. So walk me through that process of yours. How do you suggest a student or a faculty member that is trying to build a deep tech startup in India plan its entire resource management, at least for the initial stage?
See, say like always tell anybody who's starting. So what's you work it out see first. After that 2x time 2x money. 2x XL. Just your whole work will multiply it two. So still give you a level rounding. So if you're shrinking in linear, I'll give the UC. I can don't take 99% will end up going into with TSC or whatever. Second thing is you consider over 25 lakhs, I'll be able to do this. Please why applied but I do and more people multiply it. So that is one fundamental thing to where it will calculate each and everyone's this. And fortunately or unfortunately hasn't been going wrong. One for this no, so you lie mistakes, you learn is a failure. So that's one important thing. Psychics is pivoting which what we see in the movies and all. So it's a real thing. So you need to be ready. The opportunity right now, what you think about your opportunity 6 months down the line, it can be very, very different outcome. Look, 12 months line, you might work for totally the be open for that. Rigidity is not the best ally here. They are in a starter world. So you need to see where the world is taking you, where the world is. Maybe some place that you are planning to do. Maybe it will never to clear the regulatory. Maybe it will be seal, right? So you'll not be honoring. You will not be able to scale it. So all those become very crucial. Be very multiple, agile, and keep a sufficient margin for your your POC time and money works.
A bit of a scientific mind. I did some research during an internship or during my master's. I see very good potential in XYZ product or XYZ project. How should I get my initial funding? Because my first check is the most difficult one to get. I am still like 21-year-old, 22-year-old. Uh, how do I get that first? Where should I target to get that first bit of funding? How should I plan it? So let's say, should I keep my first check enough so that it will get in my POC and then work on my MVP afterwards? Or should I, let's say, do a PhD and try to put in my POC during my work of the PhD? How should I go about that one?
Keep trying it, fitting it as part of PhD specifically in a country like us, right? So where PhD is not. I mean, I would not go much in detail about say relevance of PhD and all of that. That's a separate subject altogether. So for any student, I think the best earliest supporters would be the parents, very close family, friends, and incubators like the school or university. Those incubators, and plus, like say these people. So first check should be where you don't have to worry about somebody you suffocating you and all of that. It should be like, okay, I'm trying, idea looks good, let me try it in the lowest capital possible, and capital should be as risk averse as possible, I mean as risk free as possible. And risk free capital would be coming either from the incubators, some small grants from the government, or from angel funds from very close people. So that would be my suggestion. Going an investor route in the beginning, it will drain you of all the energy. It will take a lot of time, and by the time which you can use in trying to see the feasibility, right? So let's call it a feasibility study. So that feasibility study should be done as early as possible with as risk free capital as possible.
About so one of the segments that you mentioned is the grants. What is your take on grants in our Indian ecosystem? Because a lot of the time when I speak to individuals, the grants, even if they manage to get through all the loops and get it sanctioned, they're not disbursed on time. That's a very big problem in India. However, what people don't focus are the grants that are available internationally. There are many international grants. So what's your advice for the students for that segment? Because let's be honest, I am a 21-year-old. I need to get a little money, and that's the easiest way for me is to just keep writing my grants.
There are a lot of schemes, but the money availability, disbursement, there are challenges. We can say policy challenges, or there's are implementation challenges. So it takes longer time. So and that has to be factored in by the student. So student cannot be building his business, or anyone cannot be building his business on a government grant. Government grant, if it comes, that should be considered a add-on. I mean, like us, we have considered government grant lifeline if it comes to us. Eh, if it does not, we have to plan our business case, scalability as per what we can generate, what we can raise. So that is one very important thing which I want to request the students. Second thing, what you said about international grants, that's a very good. Again, pivoting back to getting some initial sorry for the background noise. Some work going on at the airport, so there would be some disturbance. So again, pulling you back to the angel funds. So uncle giving 5 lakh rupees, for whom it might not even matter. Father giving 2 lakh rupees, and friends giving 5 lakh rupees will make up 20, 15, 20 lakh rupees for the student to actually do a initial feasibility. So again, time is crucial. So if we have early access, if a student has early access to this capital, will be able to understand it better, use it better, right? So that is one aspect. Second aspect is which students normally probably do not do or do not have access to, that is now a startup which has raised kind of a series A, series B, and India would have probably 100,000 startups. Let's say, just give an example, right? So founders of those 100,000 startups will raise series A and series B would not be adverse, would not be against the idea of putting 5 lakh, 10 lakh rupees for some promising idea. So that part has to be explored a lot by students reaching out on LinkedIn, reaching out in forums. So angel fund and people who have seen the journey, who know what it takes, reaching out to them, in my opinion, would be better.
Uh, that's actually a very good idea because so at Startup Nation, we are trying to build a network of founder mentors for precisely this exact same reason. When you have a mentor who's been a founder before on your mentorship pool, he not only brings that expertise, but he knows that journey through and through and would be more inclined in investing appropriately rather than just looking at you from a VC lens or an investor lens, right? And that is something that we hope that the students really benefit from in the long run. Now, let's say I went around, like you said, I went to a couple of angels, my friends, family, and fools around is done. I raised 15, 20 lakhs. Let's say I have 20 lakhs in biotech. But now, if I want to build anything in biotech, 20 lakhs in my pocket, I will not be able to even buy equipment, right? Because let's be honest, I don't really need an equipment. What do I do after I've collected the money? How do I identify the right labs, or how do I collaborate or partner with the right incubation center where I can get those basic resources which I don't have to buy?
So, I mean, the summit we have in Delhi, we can say Bangalore, we in Pune, Mumbai, Pune. So, the thing which student needs to do is move out, go to these places, tell to people, the team will be able to find something it suits them. So not only college students or students, right? So even we, as let's say, we are not in a quick to of course I can meet all of once year equipment, no put your equipment. No integrated are precious. They are a light in the early phases of journey. So for the persons to book bus ticket, train ticket, go to the incubator, go to IIT Kanpur, go to IIT Delhi, listen to Center of Biotechnology, IIT Bell. It's not gonna cost a lot to the house. So suppose there then, for example, this works. Let's see. Haridwar to Delhi bus ticket will be for a period of 4 lakh rupees, and then they take somewhere, go to the incubator, 24 incubators, spend 2 days over there. So they will get very good on ground ideas. And second thing is the online channel for Google are open. Right to them, people are very responsive. Only thing what I would be requesting them is do not hesitate to reach out. A lot of students they hesitate to reach out. Nobody will come to you to tell you what you should do. But if you ask 10 people, I'm guaranteeing you 8 out of 10 people will try to help you in some way, not financially, maybe by mentorship, maybe by guiding you, maybe by something. So on, but if you hesitate to reach out, I mean, unfortunately, nobody will be able to.
Um, Thank you, Dinesh. That's actually very true. And India's ecosystem, even in the incubation space, is actually a lot more advanced than when compared to the global counterparts, right? So when I compare it to, let's say, Europe or America or Australia or anywhere else, the Indian ecosystem in terms of the incubation network and the facilitation network is actually a way better than what's available internationally and even in the Western counterparts. Uh, However, it's not perfect, right?
Such a big
Based
country cannot be
in such
perfect,
a
but
big
it is good
country
enough to
cannot be
start. Perfect, but it is good enough to start.
It's very good enough to start. I don't think there is any issue in that segment right now. Uh, as an entrepreneur in deep tech who has spent a journey in 3 startups, what are the most early pitfalls that you think a startup should avoid in that deep tech journey?
So the biggest pitfall I see people making, including myself and including most of people I know, is I'll be able to do this in next 14 months and then basically I'm set. Unfortunately, in real world, it doesn't work like that, right? So if you have that realistic time and money, understanding and expectation, life will be much much easier. You'll be able to take risks the similar way. You'll be able to plan out your finances, plan out your funding. So the biggest pitfall which I see is time and resource underestimation. So mostly it is underestimation. Second pitfall is we are very very enamored with the tech, with our idea, right? So you can call it a uh, commitment escalation of the commitment, right? So once that happens mentally, it becomes very difficult to disengage you from that idea. So you say, no, 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 my idea is the best, this will work very well. Unfortunately, idea means only probably a couple of percent. 99% it's about execution. So my request and suggestion would be, idea is very important, but there will be very few people among us who will be working on absolutely brand new in the entire world. Somewhere, some point of time, something would have been done related to that or similar to that. So ideas, do not be so fixated on ideas that your ideas become 90% trying to protect it, trying to cocoon it, and focus on execution is much less. So time underestimation, money underestimation, and escalation of commitment on the idea, these are the three biggest pitfalls in my opinion. So other people who are seeing the journey, they will not make the mistake, but other people also, self-included, right? So then we make a lot of mistakes when it comes to compliances. Regulatory compliance, it's okay, we'll do that. Easily ho jayega. Similarly, financial compliances. Financial compliance is so much in the back that it doesn't even come to the forefront anytime, and it is even more crucial than your product. So startup founders, specifically students, should not make this mistake about, say, incorporation, the financial compliances, regulatory compliances. They should be priority number one. So resources have to be planned for these as well. When you count your resources, do not think, oh, I need to build a good tech, right? So I'll take two superstar co-founders who are tech people. We build it, and then boom, our life is set. No, before that, you set up your compliances first. Second thing is, whosoever you bring in, have clear agreements in place. Agreement about, say, scope of work, agreement about responsibility, non-compete, build them up. Learned the hard way, but it can take everything out of you, of your multiple years of work. Literally, people can steal. So so uh, so uh, so protect yourself with right legal documentation. Spend on a lawyer, spend on a CA, get those things done, and then plan your work. Do not rush it the other way. Many of us would learn hard way in that case. That's one very very important request to all the younger people starting it. Second thing, now coming to the question. So when you plan your resources, you I mean so actually it depends on the project. Suppose it is extremely tech heavy, you'll need to have very technically competent people, right? But again, technically competent people, you can have somebody from IIT Delhi or Bombay and pay him 30 lakh rupees, and effectively you're done with that. So you'll have to manage the resources in a way, keeping all these components in place, like your startup, your like say your compliance journey, your basic operational expenses, then how much runway you have, when do you expect the funding to be there, add 6 months to that, and then basically start the resource planning. It should not be just like randomly, let me build a app for 20 lakh rupees. My 20 lakh is gone now. Funding is not nowhere to be seen. It will take 1 more year. So this is somewhere I'm going to become chicken and egg problem. But if we think through this, I think people will be able to manage better.
That's actually a very good answer, because what you first rightfully said, allocation of resources for compliance, that is something that we never think about as first time founders. We are way too passionate about solving that problem, or about the solution that we are bringing, that we completely ignore that. And I completely agree with you. In building a team, that is also very important, that you plan your resources allocately. Otherwise, next day you don't have any money left and the salaries are pending, right? Let's talk a bit more on that, right? Team building. It's quite complicated for an individual to build a team in India or just anywhere in the world when you are in deep tech. Because let's be honest, the reason it's called deep tech is because it is actually uh, it is extremely scientifically innovative method, or the study that you're going into, and then commercializing it at a later stage. How do you build your first team and make sure that not all your resources are depleted, let's say, on salaries? Because if I raise, let's say, 1 crore rupees from an angel or a seed round, and the first hire I made takes 30 lakhs per year, because deep tech hires are not cheap, right? So how do you make sure that, how do you hire your first team? How do you make sure that the resources are well spent and you don't actually spend too much on salaries and other part in deep tech?
So not two startups are same, right? So it will differ as per the startup. So I'll just walk through my journey. So I'm not a deep tech scientist, so I cannot build anything with my own hands. So we needed support of multiple people. So and we were not in a position to have superstars charging 1 CR per year. I mean, we were not in a position at all with that. So what we did is we brought some of those trusted people from my circle for last 10 years in biotechnology. We brought them on board on equity. So basically so point I'm making is either you can be fixated on equity or you can be fixated on your operational expenses. I was fixated on operational expenses and not fixated on equity. So it's a balance. You have to see for you what balance works. For me, even if after 5 years I have like say 10% equity, that is super nice. I'm happy with that. But if we are able to launch a product, that 10% equity would become really good. But if for somebody, this approach might not work. So it will ultimately, sale will come from a balance of how much equity you want to give for yourself, what kind of people you want to bring in just on salary or salary plus ESOPs or equity partners or co-founders. So you can think of them as multiple levels, right? So if your budget is very less, you can get couple of co-founders work with it, but you'll have to give higher equity. Similarly, you can have a combination of ESOPs plus salary. So there are ways people try those levers. So it will have to be some of those combinations, right? So somebody would be fixated on मेरे को सैलरी चाहिए काम करूंगा सैलरी चाहिए and please nothing else. Some people would be I'll take lesser salary but I'll come on ESOPs. Some people would be very passionate that I'll build it. I don't need anything. I'll take a lot of equity, but I'll basically build it with you. So one thing which I want to tell each and every student is it's not a lone wolf journey. So startup, if anybody thinks as a lone wolf you'll be able to do everything, believe me, it's not true. If anybody tells you that, that's probably exaggeration. So so if we talk just about, say, let's say compliances, then building the product, then the basic operations, then the regulatory, right? So this will be common for each and everyone. Then your marketing, fundraise. So effectively, you need five, six different brains and five, six different heads. Even if you are able to take care of two of them or three of them, still you'll need people and bandwidth to do three of them. So you can think of outsourcing the work, which will be the cheapest but will take a lot of time for you. Example, your compliances, right? So there are a lot of startups now who can help you with that, right? So that is one approach where you can start reducing your burden. Second thing is your core part. Let's say building tech. Building tech. I mean, with the hindsight understanding I have now, I'll get someone who is as passionate as me or somewhat passionate as me about the idea and able to come on minimum salary and your equity or ESOPs. So first couple of people, I'll bring them because it will be their risk also, not only my risk. Bringing them on salary will just be their risk, just be my risk, right? So they'll have no risk. So I'll try to disperse the risk and bring people initially who are very passionate for equity, who are very passionate for ESOPs plus salary, and try to reduce my expenses. If you do not survive, nothing worse. So you need to survive.
For the viewers out there, could you tell us the difference between bring it for the you? Let's use this example, right? I've taken my 1 crore rupee seed round. I have a valuation of 5 crore, 4 crore equity I hold right now. Right. We're using this example as a base of conversation. Can you tell me can you tell the students the difference between hiring someone for equity and hiring someone for ESOPs? Because in both cases, I'm talking about years.
Sure. So ESOPs are given to employees. So when you hire an employee, suppose his salary is 15 lakh rupees. Let's take an example. So you can tell, I'll give you 5 lakh rupees and 10 lakh rupees worth of salary I'll give you in ESOPs, right? So for example, your valuation is say 5 CR, the example we are taking, right? So 5 CR, 1% becomes 5 lakh. So you say, I'll give you 1% of ESOPs if you join in now, or 1 or 2%, depending on who the person is. So that 15 lakh can be divided into salary plus your, but that person is an employee. Now, if you bring someone on equity, say for example, you tell Dr. Saeel, can you join us on mentorship? And he says, no, I'll help you, but so you have to give me equity. So he'll be guiding you. He'll be coming on board as advisor, guiding you, but he'll be taking, say for example, 5% equity. So what 90% or 80% you have, that will 5% will go to him. So effectively, that person becomes your shareholder. That will come on your cap table. So this is the difference. And second important thing is ESOPs normally is given over a period of time, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. ESOPs are not immediately, so that person stays for a longer duration. So that's the fundamental difference between. Yeah, but some parameters, if you build them in parameters, say let's take an example when you say proof of concept for a biotech. So somebody is working on. I'll give you an example. Somebody is working on a new technology which is not there in India. So the first step could just be, say you're in lab, you are able to prove very basically that okay, this works. Before that, investors will be very skeptical to put any money in that. So dividing it into multiple parts, it can be the lab concept, it can be then little higher proof of concept, then it can be so you have to define the problem in multiple segments and attack them step by step rather than thinking of taking the entire elephant together. So that will be my suggestion. Yeah.
So to just you know to just put it out there, what Dinesh means is, let's say you wanna build a medicine, a tablet for a disease, right? You cannot build the tablet in 18 months, go out and feed it to people. You'll not be able to sell it. It's not how it works, right? The regulatory compliances and regulatory checks aside, you will first have to develop a formula and prove it in the lab. Then after you do it in the lab, you have to probably scale it up enough so that you can produce enough to make a pill. Then you want to take it forward and actually test it out on a few animals or humans, have a sample size. Then you want to set up of initial small scale manufacturing plant. Then you want to go large scale manufacturing and then exporting into your medicine and markets and so on, right? So all these steps, there are 5, 6, 7 steps. Each one of them are a different target, and each target adds a different value to you, to your business, and to your investors. Let's say if Dinesh tomorrow wants to put in the money, he's not going to put in money assuming that you will sell the pills next year. He's going to ask you, by when can you deliver the proof of concept in the lab? After that, how much time will it require for that lab proof of concept to then be manufactured into a pill? I will give you money only for you to be able to make it into a pill. I will not give you the entire money. After you've developed into the pill, how much money do you need to test it out? I will give you money only for you to test it out in those segments. After you've established that, I'll only give you money to set up the small scale manufacturing plant. That is how investors will look at you and want you to break it down. But as an individual founder level, you yourself have to take these structures and then break them down even further. Proof of concept in the lab, okay, that is the proof of concept. But before that, there may be 10 steps that I need to do. Make each of those steps and each of those stages, put like a few months target for each segment, achieve those things. And that's how you build confidence, not just for your investor, but even for yourself and for your team. Because let's realize something, that you are not the only one in the journey. And like Dinesh rightfully said, right? If you are a lone wolf, you will never succeed in life. You have to always bring a team that is going to support you. All right. With that,
But you see what you rightly said. You see, when you synchronize your vision with the investor's vision, right? So essentially, you are not doing two different things. You are scaling it up in the right way to bring it to a level which people understand. So it's not a bad thing. It's actually a very good approach to think in that direction. Otherwise, you can be fixated on your idea. I'll do this. Okay, you can keep doing this, but I do not find it investment worthy. Yeah, please. Back to you.
no. That's absolutely true, right? Dinesh, as unfortunately, I only kept an hour for you for today, but I'd love to take you on for a longer podcast with you and other biotech or deep tech founders for a longer discussion at a later stage. Would you be open to something like that?
Yeah, I'll be open. My only request will be this. So give me a couple of options so that I can. I would not want to do it like, say, I'm sitting at the airport right now, or there's some disturbance around. So that will be my only request. Otherwise, very happy. Yeah.
It'll be properly planned, hopefully in a studio. So it'll be like that, right?
More than happy, whichever, whatever. See, a lot of people has supported me in my journey, so I owe a lot to those people. So least we can do is help out the students who are trying to do that. So count pain.
Yeah. Thank you so much. To end the conversation, is there anything you would like to tell to the at the first time founders? Remind you, these are students from schools, colleges, so very early in their journey and very first project that they're working on, right? Anything you'd like to say to them?
Yes, absolutely. Super important. My most important message: don't be scared. Go out and try. If you don't try, you will never know what you can achieve. Failure is part of the journey, and should be more than welcome. Perseverance, I haven't seen a stronger and more powerful tool than perseverance. Also, if you continue, you will succeed. So best of luck to you guys. Don't be scared to go out in the open.
Thank you so much, Dinesh, for a lovely conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And we will try to schedule something with you in the longer duration at a more appropriate time where it suits you best and in a physical environment, because I love to meet you as a scientist myself. I love to meet you and see the kind of work that you're doing in deep tech myself, right? So thank you so much for today's call again.
Likewise, a pleasure, mine, Saeel. Thank you very much for the time, and best of luck to you guys. Doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rish.